Okay, and we're back. It's COMP308, and it's week 5, lesson 5, part 1. And we're talking about assignment number 2, right? So you guys have done your portfolio website now. That's done, right? You guys finished it off. Again, you've just passed through that. And we did almost this responsive design idea. So we're, again, I think the thing we have to learn things about, and who's ever heard about progressive enhancement? You guys heard of that at all through your time? It's a funny term, right? What it means is we have to, as developers, we look at solutions for a problem when it comes to mobile. One of the most common solutions to the problem is what you've already tackled, a responsive design, right? So, instead of making a specific design for mobile, like we're going to do now, right, with your assignment number 2, you do a responsive design, and what the responsive design does is you basically allow your content to flow, to reflow, if you will, across different viewports. That's the first piece. But there's something different about doing something specific for mobile, and the reason why is sometimes we want to develop almost like a web app, all right? The look of a web app for mobile. And the reason why I'm focusing on mobile is because, let's face it, that's where the web is going, right? If you don't know how to do mobile apps these days, whether you're doing it for Android, like native Android or iOS, if you don't know how to do those things, at least at the very minimum, you should know how to do mobile from a web perspective. So I think part of the gist of this course, in the beginning, the first part is, fine, you're getting emerging technologies, and it's creating a user experience that works across platforms, right? That's the whole idea here. And a lot of this is Ajax enabled, right? So these frameworks that we're looking at, going back to the original objectives of the course, if you're going to go there, is creating this rich internet application framework, or using rich internet applications, right, to kind of serve up the best user experience across different viewports, right? So again, we've already covered responsive, and now I'm moving you into mobile specific, right? After this is the last piece. We're going to do front end, and then after that, we're moving right into all the back end stuff. So that will be starting. I'm thinking it's going to be Node after this, because I think you can't do Angular without understanding Node.js, even for a couple of lessons, right? So this is the last time we're going to talk about this in terms of front end, right? So I mean this next set of lessons anyway. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about assignment 2. So I'm looking at your personal portfolio website, and the idea here is to create almost like a secondary website, if you will, specifically for mobile. Okay, so we did a responsive one, and now you're going to take your content that you already have, right? Because you already should have content for all the pages, right? And you're going to reflow, you're going to change that content and make it applicable specifically for the mobile platform. And we're going to use Jquery Mobile, which is a framework, to help us do it, right? So we're not going to do it from scratch, because that's way too hard, right? But imagine your employer, here's your task. This is simulating this problem. The employer says, hey, you know what? I love the fact that you're doing this responsive design, but you know what? For my mobile site, I want it to look like an app. Can you do that? And the answer for most of you should be yes, if you have a framework. So there's 2 main frameworks that are out there, very popular frameworks that are out there right now. One of them is still Jquery Mobile. The other one is Ratchet. Okay, so there's 2 different frameworks, Ratchet and Jquery Mobile. Ratchet's becoming more and more popular, still not as renowned, let's say, as Jquery Mobile in terms of doing this kind of stuff. There are others, right? And if you were to look at others to help you make this stuff work. And what we're going to be doing today is covering a bit of Ajax, because you have to know the kind of the back end of how all these frameworks work, how they work. Actually, it hits one of our requirements for the course. And the other one is Jquery Mobile. Now, I'll have to give you a hint. So even though I'm giving you the assignment number 2, the assignment number 2 and your work on assignment number 2 will help you prepare for the midterm, which is going to happen after the break for us. Okay, so I'm not going to run the midterm before the break. I'm going to do it after the break, right? So we have a break. So next week is the last week before the break. We have the break, which is around Family Day, right? And then after the break, when we come back, I'm going to run your midterm. It's probably going to be on the second day, so day 2, because usually we run day 1, day 2. So the way it's going to work is day 1, we're going to come in and do some review. Day 2, we're going to run the midterm, and it's going to be again, for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm not going to make it a big crazy test where you guys get killed, right? I may decide to split things between the 2 days, like a little bit of the midterm on, and I'll let you know as we get closer. So next week I'll give you more details, right? I might split it up so you have a few things on one day and a few things on the other day, almost like a multi-day test. Only because the way we've split up our, we're split up in terms of lecture and lab, okay? Again, the idea here is to make you guys successful and practice to do the midterm by doing this this assignment. So assignment number 2 is also worth 15%, but you're going to find it a lot easier than assignment number 1. Okay, assignment number 1 would be the one that creates your framework, you get your content, all that kind of stuff. Assignment number 2, we're going to use assignment number 1's content and create a new site, a one-page site that reflows all the content in one page. Okay, so we're going to talk about this. Everything is on one page. You don't have to use multiple pages for assignment number 2, and I'll show you how that works in a bit. Okay, so what do we want to do? So the assignment is create a mobile-specific web app for your portfolio site, leveraging your accumulated knowledge of JavaScript, Jquery, and we're going to talk about Jquery Mobile today, right? This is a kind of a wireframe that I kind of put together. And this wireframe says, okay, well, if you had your, remember the previous wireframe we had for your site, if you had like your logo up in the corner or whatever, this is an example of, if I was going to go with my original wireframe, this is what, you know, the Jquery Mobile one might look like. So this is an example. So you might still have your feature work slider down here, right? And your projects and your services over here. But we're creating a specific design. It's not reflowing from by using responsive design. Responsive design will reflow your stuff, and you can use CSS to almost come up with something like this. But the advantage of Jquery Mobile is it actually gives you a little bit more control from a mobile specific, from a phone. If you're making something for a phone or a tablet, you can get a lot more control, right? The challenge is, when we talk about kind of progressive enhancement, it costs more money. If we were going to do this, imagine you're making a site for an employer and you say, okay, I'm going to make a responsive site, it's going to work for mobile. Now, do you want a specific mobile page? And he might say, what are you talking about? Well, even though if it reflows for mobile, it may not look like a mobile app. Do you want to make it look like a mobile app? That'd be your question. And he might say, or she might say, hey, that's really cool. Show me an example. And this is something that you might show them. You might show them a toolbar with icons specifically for mobile and so on, right? And you might see some of these pages out there that looks like an app. It even works like an app. It flips like an app. The transitions feel like an app. Everything about it feels like an app as opposed to a mobile site. That's what you can do with Jquery Mobile and other frameworks like Ratchet. Okay, and that's what we're going to be doing here. So there's still a place for this stuff out there. It's just a matter of you guys learning this really, really quickly. Now, some people might say that, you know, a lot of times, Tom, you know, we don't need something like this. True, right? But there are more and more demand for a site-specific, you know, or mobile-specific kind of design at times. And again, this progressive enhancement, where you give a person to say, okay, so how far on the scale do you want to go mobile? Do you want to go mobile where it's responsive, or do you want to really go mobile and offer a specific page for phones, as an example? And that's where we're going with this one. Okay, so again, the mobile site must include 5 pages. But the pages that you're going to see, by the way, they're not real pages. They're just one page that you're going to use. We're going to use Ajax and the Jquery Mobile framework to display pieces of the same page, right, when the user presses the different nav buttons. Okay, so even though I'm saying 5 pages, it's 5 sections more than anything else in the same page. So you're not actually creating new content. Your content remains the same. You might even reduce your content, stop certain content from being available on the mobile platform, right? The other question for you should be, well, how can we have both? How can I have a responsive design and a mobile-specific site for our phones, as an example? Well, we have to listen to it, and there's something we can do. I'm going to give you some technology today or tomorrow that can give you a way to listen for the type of incoming device. So, for example, your device might be an iPhone, and there is some JavaScript code as well as PHP code, if you're a PHP person, to listen for the type of incoming device and their user agent string, which we're going to talk about, and then serve a different page. Right? So we're serving one page for, it's almost like we made one page to rule them all with the first assignment, assignment number 1. Sorry, Lord of the Rings kind of reference. Now we're going to say, well, yeah, we got one page, but now we're going to add the second one, and this second one's only going to serve specifically for mobile. So 5 pages is more like 5 sections, and if you notice, it's the same stuff. Feature work slider, a link or a button that allows, this is one thing that's new, a link or a button that allows the user to switch back to full site view. Because sometimes you get a page, and you're not going to include certain things on this page. Like, for example, you may not want to include your GitHub link on this page because it doesn't make any sense. The user can't see your GitHub stuff anyway. It's too small, right? So why would you include a link to GitHub on your mobile page, right? What you may want to do is reduce the amount of links that are available on your mobile site, right? And what you want to do there is say, okay, I'm not going to serve up these links. However, I'm going to make it so that if the user really wants to see it on his mobile device, he can actually go and say, view full site, and then it'll switch over to the regular site. And we're going to talk about that technology too. How do we do that? How do we switch over to? How do we redirect a user back to his full site? Okay, again, about me pages. So basically, this is the same project that you had in number 1, right? Or same assignment, but in this particular case, what you're going to have is you're just going to reflow it across your mobile space. So you're going to get an external document requirement, right? And one of the things you're going to do is you're going to take the document you already have externally and modify it. So you're going to need some more wireframes because you've already done wireframes, but maybe you don't have a wireframe specific to this new design. So you might have to add one wireframe, like you have, because this is a different look. This is a different page, and you haven't created this one before, right? This is almost like a different phase of your web project or your web app. Your first phase was creating this, responsive design. This is the second phase, and now you have to update the external document to include mobile. So what I'd like you to do is take your external document that you already have from assignment number 1 and add different things that you need to be mobile specific, right? So you're not going to just generate a whole new one. That doesn't make any sense because in real life you take the external document and change it, modify it, and put in a revision for the document and kind of say something like, here's my external document for my now mobile piece of my website, and you're going to add more wireframes and a couple extra screenshots. That's what you're going to do here. So where it says a color section, your colors, your swatches, if you will, are specifically for mobile. Now your mobile theme, not the theme that you had before for your responsive design. And your typography section, if you change anything, as an example, let's say for example you're using web fonts or whatever, you should again describe it. If it's going to be different, if it's different, if it's not different, leave it alone. Like if you're using the same typography for both sites and you can get away with that sometimes, that's great. Although I'll tell you right now, sometimes you need to be very specific about the sizes for your typography with your CSS targeted for mobile because you need to use your CSS in that way. Again, your wireframes don't have to change. Your branding is going to be mostly the same. Everything's going to be the same. The only thing is you may have to mention that your logo may change size if you need to use this another. For example, if you've made a logo that works for desktop, right, and you've reflowed it, it might be usable for your mobile site. Sometimes though you need to make another custom specific size for this design because you don't want a logo that's resizing because then you're going to get pixelation, right? And you don't want that. Okay, so that's our external documents more or less the same. It's worth only 8 marks, right? Internally, I'm still looking for a comment header with everything else that you would normally have in your site. So you're going to get there. Inside the actual structures where you're going to get some different marks. 10 marks for structure in this particular case, because you need to use some meta tags or CSS media queries to redirect the user to this mobile specific version of the site. We're going to go over how to do that. That's one piece that's new, right? I also asked you to do a custom theme because we're going to see when we go into Jquery Mobile, there is a standard theme that you can use in Jquery Mobile to give you kind of colors and everything else. But your theme has to match up with the theme that you have for your portfolio website. So I don't want you to have one theme for your portfolio website, and just because it's easy, you're going to use the Jquery standard theme for your for your mobile site. You have to take it and roll it, and there's something called Theme Roller that we're going to look at that's part of Jquery Mobile, and kind of roll your own theme. Roll your own. And that's about it really from a structure perspective. Other than that, it's just your site with the same content reflowed to a mobile specific site. Okay, optional features. If you feel, and I have it in here every time, but no one ever does it. If you feel like you're ambitious and you love doing this kind of stuff, and this is what your line of work is going to be, and you want to make a tablet specific site as well, right? Because again, once you've done mobile specific, there's some extra features you can put in for tablet, like for example, you know, a split screen and so on that works well with tablet, but doesn't really work well with mobile. And if you really wanted to do that, you could, and I would give you 6 marks for that, 6 bonus marks on top of everything else you get. There is something called Bartender, which is a third-party plugin. If you want to figure out how to use that out, or figure out how to use that, that's an extra 2 marks, right? And there's also again, there's something called a Jquery Mobile slide menu extension that you can use for 3 marks. So I've given you a couple of examples, and there's others. If you add other features, contents, extensions that are not listed here, but you put it part of your external documentation, I will definitely give you additional marks based on the extra work that you do. Again, from a submission perspective, you're gonna have your external document in Word or PDF format only, and your project files. You can zip up your project files and assign them to up on eCentennial. You can load them up if you want when you do your Dropbox, or, which I prefer, a link to GitHub. I like that more. Okay, so if you can give me a link to your GitHub, this would be a new project for on your GitHub site, right? So a new repository that you're going to give me. The other one obviously wouldn't apply because that's for your desktop site. This one is for your mobile specific site. Okay, some pieces of this. In previous semesters when we've done this assignment, people have asked, well, does this one also have to be live? Because I have my first one as an example, and it's on the GitHub pages, using GitHub pages to serve it up. Can I, you know, do I have to make this one live? And this is the requirement that I'm going to say no. So before the first one for your primary one, yes, it has to be live. This one, it'd be nice. And I'm looking at, in my mind, I'm looking at making it, giving you bonus marks. The reason for this, I'll tell you why, is because there's a certain complexity, because the web has changed a little bit, right, since we started doing this. And because I haven't talked about PHP at all, right? Now you guys have some ASP.NET knowledge, if I'm not wrong, from COMP308, right? But you don't really have PHP, not a lot, right? So because of that, because there's not a lot of PHP that you've handled so far, one of the ways to redirect is using PHP. And because I haven't covered that, one of the link states, which says go back to the original site or whatever, is hard. So if you were to just give me this and it wasn't live, as an example, I would be okay with it. I wouldn't make you lose any marks. I think maybe what I'll do is I'll give you bonus marks if you make it live, right, to promote it, right? What I mean by live is hosted live next to your other site. So you have a site specifically for your mobile regular portfolio, which should reflow anyway. And this one, if you were going to go to this one, you'd have to change your original site, your original portfolio site, and add a header to redirect. Now, if you figured that out, as an example, I'll give you bonus marks as opposed to, you know, take marks away, right? Because I think in previous times people have had lots of trouble with that. And so, and it's a little bit of stuff that you need to figure out on your own. So and therefore, it's not part of what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you some of it, but some pieces you have to figure out. And if you're figuring it on your own, I always like to give bonus marks because that's almost like extra features you figured out on how to do on your own, which as developers we should probably kind of do anyway, right? Okay, so that's really it in a nutshell. Any questions? I've kind of got the rubric in here too to show you the split of marks. So if you notice in this particular case, your UI, your interface, your content, and your functionality are pretty much, even if and your site structure are almost weighted the same, right? It's almost like quarter, 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 and then a few extra marks for internal and external documentation, right? But in terms of site structure and UI and stuff, that's how it's split up. So even though the whole project, if you will, the assignment's worth 62 little points, if you will, it's worth 15% of your final marks. So you've got 15% for your first assignment, 50% for your second assignment, and then by just after midterm, after the break, you'll have 30% of kind of your, kind of an idea of how you're doing from 30% of how you're doing. Plus, you also will be doing your exam, your midterm, which should give you almost 50% right there. In terms of, I got half my marks right now, kind of idea, in terms of making a decision whether you want to stay and complete the course or not. Okay, any questions? All right.